Hi, everybody. It's Saralise and Dani Katz, and we are here to talk about mind control. And the struggle is real. Real, people. Real. So we're here to talk about, we both wore red lips today, so you can see our mouths moving. We decided to put on some makeup and be, professional and all those things that go along with those things. So, so we wanted to talk about a few things. I'm going to have Dani talk about, what's today's date? November 17th. 17, yeah, 17, the letter Q. Oh, yeah. Okay, so anyway, we're going to talk about the craziness of what's going on right now and what's happening behind the scenes that's being put in your face, but you're not really aware of what's happening. So we're going to try to break that down so that you can understand how you're being manipulated and how to recognize what's happening so that you can kind of see through the illusion into the reality of what's really going on. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and in our observations, by the way, this is an opinion only situation. We are not experts, but we are well versed in our expertise that we operate under, right?
I mean, we do a lot of research.
We do a lot of research. We're well-informed human beings. We have our own systems that we both have, right? And I'll let Dani speak to her system, and I have a full spectrum healing system that, directly deals with mind control and the protocols to get people out of mind control. So I'm very well versed in this and in human trafficking and these types of things. So go ahead, Dani. I want you to share with you what happened the other day and like how you were alarmed by that and how you observe the world that we're living in today. I'd really love to hear that. You're frozen. Oh, there you go. You're back.
We're back. Okay, so the last thing I heard was how I was alarmed by that, and then I didn't hear the second part.
And then your observation of what you've been observing and how you would interpret that in relation to what's happening now and the play out of what's happening.
Okay. So before I jump into what happened yesterday, I want to speak to as far as our frame of reference and our lens of perception. I think it was David Icke who said, it might have been David Icke, Alex Jones, but once you know the goal, aim is, then it's easy to see how all of these little pieces and these occurrences and these false flags and these pandemics fit in to what it is they ultimately want to accomplish. So that informs a lot of my lens of perception. So someone sent me, we're talking about how like just over the matrix right now and all the fear and all the control and how, the layers behind what's going on in 3D are feeding off of our fear. So I'm very attuned to when the media elicits fear in me and knowing, okay, well, I'm sovereign being, so it's time to take my attention away. So yesterday, someone I was telling Saralise, it scared the living shit out of me. And it was about the next, my friends and I was on a thread and it's like, what's the next false flag? What are they going to pull next? So my friend sent me this very short video with Klaus. We were going to call him something else.
Cotton swab.
So they're talking about this event similar to Event 201, which was the sort of pre-pandemic run through that they had. So they just had another run through of the next big thing, which is a total cyber attack that would take down the grid, take down the power, the water, which is all hooked in now on this like smart system, and how there's all these issues with hacking and people's money being hijacked. So the gist was, the whole web is about to be co-opted. And I've heard this in different, I've heard murmurings of this going on for the past year. The
Sure.
most recent one I'd heard before this one was they were going to take the grid down, blame it on Iran, and use that as an excuse to start that war. But it doesn't matter. I mean, the bigger issue is, okay, if they take the whole grid down and they take the whole web down. And of course, we've heard in the Q communities that they would take the when the shit's going down, right? Like when the arrests are being made. And
yes, they have a full plan for that.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But what this speaks to is the Great Reset. And that's what all of this is about. And that's what Agenda 21 is about, Agenda 2030 is about. And the host is create a one world government, create a singular currency, a digital currency that everyone's sort of enslaved to. It's tied to their social credit system and their vaccine record and how well they behave and obey. And if you're not in this digital system, then you can't function in society.
You can't function at all.
You can't function at all. Like, of course, travel is done and all of that, but like we just heard Ticketmaster announce, that they're not going to be allowing people in without proof of vaccine. So this is all speaking to that. And part of me, part of me is just like, is this all just a giant psyop? But then there's the other part of me that wonders, is that just my sort of idealistic nature because I haven't lived through this before, that a part of me is refusing to believe that this is really going to happen. But I'm looking at what's going on in New Mexico, where we have kind of the most intense lockdowns like up again. So we didn't have school again. We didn't have yoga classes again. Kids didn't have sports again. We haven't had that since March.
Neither have we.
And given that it's
neither have we.
Okay.
In Oregon.
Right. And actually in our governor's most recent press conference where she announced that she was locking us down, she pointed to Oregon as like her sister state, and we need to do what Oregon is doing. But I look at what's happened to the state. Hundreds of businesses have shut down. We're already the poorest state. The teen suicides, in addition to the adult suicides, are off the chart. And they need everyone in a state of economic collapse and desperation so that there's no choice but to take the handouts that are required by succumbing to this digital system, this digital enslavement. So that's the plan. And this video was just like, it's like, I know one, and I'm a badass, so I can hold the information, but then there are also these moments where it comes in and the implications really sink in, and all the sort of tendrils of, okay, that means this and this and this, the amount of chaos and fear that would engender to take down the financial system and hack into the grid and steal everyone's money at the holiday. Like we're not all psychologically traumatized enough. So this is sort of an overview of what I came in with before I hopped on the call with you.
Right. And I want to mention that their intention, and this is really intense for people to hear, but their intention is to wipe out 95% of the population.
100%. They've stated it.
They've stated it. They've been very clear about it. And part of the vaccine agenda of them doing a vaccine, not all vaccines, we need to be very clear, not all vaccines, but if they were to require a mandatory vaccine, if someone was in control and was able to do that for 8 billion people on the planet, literally, that's what was coming out of Mr. Gates' mouth.
Because he's a medical expert now.
Oh, but he's like, excuse me, what? Like, my understanding actually of that situation is there was they were murdered. Him and his wife were murdered in Africa in 2013, and what we're looking at now is a duplicate of that. So it is important to understand, people, that nothing is as it seems. Like, nothing is as it seems. We are literally looking at the breakdown and the collapse of the false matrix. The false matrix in the last 3 years, from 2016 to 2019, went into hyperdrive, and I watched how people just fell asleep. Literally, I was like, oh, wow, this is really happening.
Yeah.
And the veil had been lifted at the end of 2015, very specifically. So then they had to like go and lock it down immediately and put everybody to sleep. So they went into overdrive and they started hyper planning, hyper speeding. And then they didn't think at all that they were going to lose any elections. They thought for sure they were literally on track to depopulate the planet. And that was part of the plan of HRC being in office. Like, you guys need to understand that.
100%. That's why a lot back then, pre-Q, before we knew, now, a lot of my progressive, a lot of my progressive
Let's say
hippie friends.
pre-17. Let's say pre-17.
Pre-17, exactly, perfect. So pre-17,
Mhm.
a lot of my awake hippie friends voted for Trump because of the vax thing, and it was specifically a gun and vax, which is such a big part of HRC's plan.
Right. And like, even now, the people that are like still against the person that's holding the office,
Mhm.
they still don't get what's happening to their freedoms. They don't understand that there are politicians that are bought and sold and paid for by the CCP. Like, it is not a joke. This is real. And there are foreign intelligences and foreign countries that are involved in the election process. And
Massively.
it is important. And it's being reverse spelled onto the other side.
It's
And it's all mind control. It's an inversion spell.
Honey, do you hear that noise? I'm hearing like a weird sort of like clicking noise.
It's me. It's probably my sorry. It's my headphones.
Okay.
It's my head. Here, I'll take this one off. It's the clicking of my earring. Anyway, keep going.
I love your earring though. Which totally exposed him as being on the CCP payroll.
So you went out for a second. Repeat.
I said proof came out, evidence came out on Hunter Biden's laptop.
Yeah.
Very obviously tying Joe Biden. Maybe I shouldn't be using these words.
Right. JB
to the CCP, and there was this
mass like
censorship. Straight up. But there were people, I mean, the most egregious censorship I've ever seen. And I reached out to friends who I knew were planning to choose me and sent them articles, and they could not. Excuse me?
Repeat.
I sent friends who were going to be choosing JB in the contest. I sent them articles about these ties to the CCP. Didn't care. Didn't raise even an eyebrow. I don't.
Right?
And we know it's mind control.
Yeah,
I know it's mind control.
Asleep. But there's a level of denial. There's literally like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. He's the bad guy. Like,
well, there must be something.
What's happening.
I think there's something in the mind control mechanism that's shutting down the willingness to look. It's creating some sort of block because that's so consistent. The refusal to look at the evidence.
To look at the other side at all.
Exactly.
Like,
so something's hijacking them.
Exactly. Do you guys understand that actually the Associated Press is not legally, they have now enacted treason. The big social media companies have enacted treason against the government. They have done something completely illegal. It is not legal at all. And there's no president-elect right now. None.
No.
There's nobody that has won anything yet.
No. Absolutely nothing.
Do people not understand? They don't understand that, and they don't want to hear it.
No, they don't want to hear it. And when I've mentioned it, when I've tried to weigh in on threads and I've learned the hard way, like it's a waste of energy. But when I've done it from a very neutral place of actually these, the Associated Press, the corporate media has no authority, and the Secretary of State has not yet announced it. Nothing has been certified. I've been attacked as a 17 crazy person conspiracy theorist. And I'm like, I'm really just talking about
this is
civics.
Law, people. This is law. LAW,
civics.
law.
Right. It's not law. A side thing. It's completely nutso. Yeah. And then you have Van Jones announcing, trying to start a revolution.
Dude, he did a TED Talk.
It was that TED Talk painful. It was so painful to watch him do that.
I couldn't watch it.
I sent him a message. I said, how could you do this to your children? Like, we're all living in this world. Please issue a retraction. Please come forward and undo this damage. This is so destructive for our republic.
Yeah, but they don't see it as a republic. They don't see the same thing that we see. That's the problem. They have a completely different perspective, and they think that we should respect their perspective, even though they're not willing to respect our perspective.
Well, the issue with their perspective is it's wrong use of will, right?
Yes, exactly. There's no right use of will there.
Exactly. So there's really nothing to discuss. Like, if your perspective involves imposing your will upon mine, then the conversation's over.
Correct. But people who want to be saved, that's the only will they have. They have no sovereignty.
No.
They're also holier than thou, and they're acting like they're right.
Oh, I mean, the self-righteousness and the sort of like cat who ate the canary smugness. I mean, I'm definitely devoted to unity consciousness and holding us all in a space of compassion, but it's been pretty cringy to watch and hold space for. Yeah.
And I think we're all doing really well. I think we're all doing really, really well, considering.
I do.
Let's just talk about the fact that there hasn't been a real civil war. Let's just talk about that for a second. That the side that would actually be able to fight a civil war has held themselves back.
Right, because that side is not under mind control.
And they're not under mind control. They have
they're not hijacked
of reason.
Crazy place. Exactly.
They have a voice of reason.
Correct. And we know that, and none of this is to seed our reality this way. And the plan in doing this, like the design, was to steal the election, do that from the get-go. And the corporate media taking it upon themselves to announce it. It's like you're giving a 4-year-old a toy and that you're just going to take away. And when you take it away, they're not going to respond very well.
It's not going to be pretty.
It's really not going to be pretty. The only thing that I'm holding out hope for, and you're in Portland, so I know it's a very different scene. But it's a
really intense scene, dude.
I can't even imagine. Dude, you're in the belly. Like,
I'm in the belly.
Center.
I'm straight up been assigned here. Like, literally, this apartment triangulates.
How has that been for you just since the contest?
Yeah. I've been inside. I've been outside maybe twice. I'm staying inside because I don't want to interact with anyone.
Yeah.
And nobody, and I'm totally stealth. Nobody knows my deal. And that's okay. I'm good with that.
It's smart. It's smart. Be invisible.
It's smart.
That's my prayer every morning. Just make me invisible. Except to my soul family.
Right. Yeah, for me, I have to remain invisible most of the time. That's kind of, I can only be visible in select situations.
It's a lot. I mean, especially where you are and doing and the light and the medicine that you carry. It's a
Yes,
lot.
the medicine that I carry is like a dragon in a cave.
Yeah.
Mama dragon. She stays in the cave and she only comes out when she can fluff her shiny wings and people will accept that. So pretty much I'm inside all the time.
Right. Until we have our island of
Right.
people who get it.
And the dragons can fly around and like be free to fly. Yeah.
Well, here's something that I've noticed, because we mentioned right use of will, and I'm rereading it because it's just such a helpful lens for what is going on right now. And I'm refreshed that I could frame things through it. But it even says in right use of will, those who are still in denial are not going to survive, which brings me back to the 90. Right. And I don't know what percentage, but from all angles, it looks like there's going to be a mass die-off, right?
There's going to be a culling for sure. Yeah, I do want to talk about that. I've known this for years, that this was going to happen and that there was going to be a shift that, like, since I was a child, right? So I've always known that there was going to be a point where there would either be a split of the realities, which we're seeing happen, or that there was just going to be a massive die-off, like you said, and then the rest would maintain and manage to be on the surface or go inside. You know, maybe there's a disaster, whatever, but we don't really know. But here's the interesting part that I want to point out. Excuse me, those carrot chips. I want to point out the fact that the dumbs are being exploded, they're being destroyed because the hijacking of the dumbs.
Okay.
DUMBS.
Okay. Is this like the sleepy people?
Deep underground bases. The bases underground.
Got it.
Those are being destroyed right now. Those are being blown up.
Yep.
Only to a certain level. There's many levels underneath that haven't even been touched yet. Okay. But we have to understand that there's a reason why they are doing that. Because they were hijacked by the DS, the state of the deep. So we have to understand that whole system, that whole network of bases and of supplies and of underground highways, all of that is getting shut down.
Right.
And because they will be able to access that, but we would be not able to access that. And so now they're not going to have that opportunity or that option for themselves. Right?
Right.
So what does that do for us though? Like, what do we need to do in case something happens or in case we're in a position? God, my lips are so red. It's weird. It's like,
so good. So good.
I haven't had defined lips like this in a very long time, and I'm watching my mouth move, and it's really interesting. So it's interesting. I have lips right now. It's like, oh, okay. So the thing for me though is devising a plan or having a survival plan, like having something in place for yourself. I want to talk about being prepared with food, with supplies, with a bug out bag. If you don't know what that is, look it up. A camp, like a tent, like you need to prepare yourselves. And I'm not trying to scare anyone here, but if you are prepared, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable in your body and your skin, like right now. Like, yeah, because we don't 100%. Know what's coming. We don't know what's going to happen. And something is going to happen. There is definitely something that's going to happen. There's no question in my mind about the fact that it's going to get a little hairy for a while.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be June of next year before we are actually somewhat out of the woods, if at all. So we need to understand that this is a real thing, and there's a very strong group of people that are controlling the narrative and controlling the operations of this planet, that are fighting to the death to not lose that control. And chances are they are going to lose that control.
No, they are losing.
They already have, but I'm saying the final vestiges of like that could get a little
they're gonna pull out all the stops.
They're gonna pull out all the
their
stops.
last chance, and they're sinking, and they will sink. But yes, there's gonna be a transition.
Yes.
Watch them freak out and do terrible things.
And they're already doing that. They're already doing that. So imagine what it's going to be like in the next phase.
I know. Yeah. I know.
I need everybody to be awake. We need everybody to we need to do a wake the fuck up march.
I mean, yes, and it's a one-room schoolhouse, and the reality is that not everyone is ready to wake up. Not everyone is resourced enough to hold the truth of the situation. And a lot of people just want their little slave world to be taken care of. And so it's, it can go many ways. I feel like whatever's happening is something that we've yet to even imagine, because there's also so much novelty coming in. We have this December 21st event. Who knows what that's going to be? I know for me, like, codes are coming into my body that I've been in so much pain as my body's trying, integrating these upgrades, and I have like electricity moving through my hands. So we don't know, because so much tingling, and there's a chance that we're going to split and the timelines will split, and we don't have to live through the. I just feel like, and my sense is that that's a realistic possibility. It's just that my third dimensional mind has yet to wrap itself around that, because I haven't lived through it, and I don't even know what that means or looks like.
Yeah. And I will say that in the work that I've been doing, dismantling, we've seen quite a few things, but we are definitely dealing with a timeline war situation. That is definitely what's happening. And we have the opportunity to hold the frequency of the outcome being in the positive direction. We need to hold that frequency.
That's our primary task. I really
feel primary task.
The most important thing we can do right now: be in joy, be in trust, vision the new, and only
trust
be in
the outcome being of the ascension of humanity on this planet. Period.
Absolutely.
That you got to hold strong to that, because right now there is every which way from sideways attempting to dismantle that frequency. That's the nature of what we are experiencing. Because
sorry, go ahead.
Well, just that the dark can't hold on to that. The dark can't hold on to the light when there's nothing to grab onto.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say.
It's like slippery.
Right.
Yeah.
We're so much stronger and more powerful. And the key is to know that, to own that, to not fight back, to not be in resistance. I look at it, when I was watching this, I'm just going to keep calling it the contest, just to keep us under the radar.
So great. I love it. Love it.
So when these things happen, my perspective is watching a 5-year-old play war, and like, oh, that's so cute what you're trying to do. That's adorable. But to not give it my anger, not empower it that way, just like, that's adorable, but it's really not going to happen.
No, I mean, this entire time, it's like the two kids in the sandbox. Like, who's going to kick who out of the sandbox? Like, literally, that's what we're watching.
I mean, kind of. It's so crooked and twisted, and there was I mean, it was obviously stolen and rigged. So there's,
Oh,
it's gonna
100%,
take
100%.
Yeah, and then there's also, again,
But
the
nothing is,
people who
but
are
there's the thing that people don't understand is nothing has been stolen. Nothing has been hijacked.
correct.
The truth,
Thank you.
the truth still reveals the truth. And the truth and the numbers are still actually correct at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And that truth will come out regardless of the winner of this contest.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, there's so much momentum behind the truth and the reveal.
Right. Exactly.
They're playing whack-a-mole and they're doing whatever they can, but they, it's written in the stars. The truth is coming to light. All we needed, it's for us to just trust and hold that higher vibe.
Right.
And
anyone who says that you are crazy or that because you voted for the truth or you are aligned with the truth that you're actually the crazy one, consider the source of their consciousness and where they're being controlled. Just do that for yourself and be like, okay, whatever I got. Okay. Just don't even take it on. Do not react because it is not worth your time or your energy. It is toxic. Toxic. It is so toxic. Here's how you know the difference between the truth and the illusion is the illusion will always be toxic and the truth will always feel clear and be like, that's clear.
Yeah.
And if you're in any kind of confusion, you're being manipulated. Period.
If you're in any kind of confusion and also if you're emotionally hijacked,
distraught.
Like if you're getting distraught or you're hysterical or you're angry or you really need someone to change their mind, then you are controlled. And I don't mean you because I've been in that place. Like we're all susceptible to mind control. I am no different. So I see moments where I'm defending something and my heart's racing fast and I know, okay, I'm being controlled. I need to pull out of this conversation. Not neutral.
Right. It's the steady neutral stance is the only way that we are going to get through this. We're going to ride the wave in our steady neutral stance and stay steady. If you can stay steady, you're going to be fine.
Stay steady and listen, right? Like that's been
listen to your consciousness, listen to your gut instinct about stuff.
Right, your authentic gut. Authentically guided to be in the apartment you're at right now. I was authentically guided to get out of Los Angeles and to come here.
Right.
When I look at all my prepping supplies, that's not from me online researching. That's my gut saying, go get a bike. That's my gut saying, go get some extra gas cans. That's my gut saying, you're a seed sprouter so that you're going to have greens no matter what. It's all like getting really quiet and listening.
Yes. And the other thing about the gut instinct thing is a lot of people, they've hijacked that as well. Because there are people that literally their gut instinct is that one of the candidates is evil or the other one's evil or whatever. But it's super clear. Like anybody who's in their sane, mind and they're settled in their reasoning process can see that it's a hijack. They can see it. But if they think that one candidate is evil and the other one is going to solve all the problems, then you're in that, you're in the hijack.
Right.
Even if it's your gut instinct telling you that person's evil. I don't like him. Actually, when all of that energy gets taken away from you and you clear the space, you clear the air from the fear and the dictatorship or evil or whatever that programming is, then you can actually see the programming coming in from the other side that's telling you they're going to save you.
1,000%. Like it's
they
just
did this in Nazi Germany. It's literally like by the book, you guys. If you look, it's literally like the pictures, the the paintings, like the posters
Of
with
course.
the
Yeah.
faces on them.
Graphics. Yeah.
The graphics are identical to Nazi Germany.
Well, and
Identical.
the masks are like the stars, right?
Yep, the
Stars or
masks
the
are
pink
like the
triangles.
stars. Yep.
And what's weird to me is I learned this in school. I'm not that ancient. Like, there are plenty of contemporaries on the planet where I feel like we all had a
Right.
similar curriculum. So why are we not like, I did a video the other day about the censorship of the article about the laptop. And I was like, guys, do you hear me? I'm talking about censorship in 2020. Like, regardless of what side
Right.
you're on, what color
Right.
you favor, why are we not talking, like, why are we not all unified around this fear being censored? And then now I hear JB,
like if that's not the most obvious thing ever.
and it's the outlets doing the censoring are the outlets doing the smearing, and the outlets and taking it upon themselves to announce a winner to a contest that isn't yet complete. So understanding why people haven't put that together, like, these are the same people who are they're telling you what to think. They're, and it's like,
yeah.
And then as a journalist, I have friends who are journalists and editors, and I'm like, how are you not noticing this gross editorialization? Like, how are you not noticing these ethical breaches? And that's where it goes
issues.
Back to control is beyond. Yeah.
Not only that, but I want to bring in the question. Just for a moment. This is what got me. This is what made me wake up. Okay, you guys have to understand, I left the country in 2016 and I was never coming back. That's how against politics I was. I wasn't willing to live in a country that was run by either one of the candidates at that time. 4 years ago. Okay. I was an expat, you guys. I came back to the country for my reasons for coming back. But here's what I want you to, and I still was in the same position, like nothing had changed when I came back to the country. I was still apolitical. I was still never going to deal with that. I was still like, oh, whatever, ew, right? Like, ugh, I can't deal with that, right? But so the question that came into my mind, knowing what I know about mind control, when I was watching the narrative and how it was playing out and watching how a whole group of people, a whole ginormous group of people are against someone for the first time politically.
Right.
What is that about?
Right.
Wait a minute. And both parties unanimously. And because I had participated in lifting the veil from human trafficking, okay, and it was starting to be revealed, I helped with that. Like, I was involved in that and I watched it play out, right? That's when I started asking the question, okay, wait a minute. And then when I found out what actions had been taken in relation to that against human trafficking, then I started doing the research. Then I was like, okay, I need to know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And very shortly thereafter, my mind was just like blown open to what was really going on. And I mean, I'm already in the inside, right? Like, I already have the inside intel, but it still took me a while to understand the level of operations that were happening, and that there were soldiers that had been trained for 2.5 years for underground warfare, where there's very little oxygen and, all of these things, right? It took me a while to get the information by researching to understand what was really going on. And when it hit me the hardest was when my hometown had 2 earthquakes back to back on the 4th of July and the 5th of July last year. That was the first place they hit, the first base. Okay. I grew up there. I know what's going on there. So on July 6th, I went in remotely and cleaned house and dealt with the situation and made sure everything was better online, what needed to happen energetically on the grid. That was the first time I'd had the opportunity to do that in my entire life, you guys. Like, I grew up in this place. I knew what was going on there. I knew what the lockdown situation was there. I knew what was going on underground. 2.1 million square acres of base underground.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah.
It's really
So
significant.
that for me was significant. Like, that for me was like, okay, there's something happening. We got to get to work. Holy shit, I got to be on top of this.
Yeah.
And I still didn't have anything around the president or anything of that nature, right? I wasn't dealing with that part of it. That wasn't until this year, right? In the beginning of this year, when I did some reconnection of the umbilical cord to the sun, and then everything went, and then I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely a plan. This is, and the 201 and all of those things. And I started seeing all the levels that were operating. And then I started going to work on the soul level of the people involved, right? Then I started looking at all the levels of the people involved on a soul level and what was playing out, you guys, like for real, from that perspective. So I've been privy to a lot of information that other people don't have. And it has helped inform me to be solid in my stance with where I stand with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to know the truth, and that I am not being hoodwinked or controlled or whatever. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm a sovereign being. And there's not one moment where I have felt that my sovereignty was being hijacked by that other side. Not one moment.
Right.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite.
I mean, it's interesting because you, like, there's your experience and there's what you intuitively know and tapped into, and then you did your research. Much of what we hear is, I don't like him, I don't like his personality, or you have the media making meaning of objective things, right? So he did this, they'll take it out of context, and that equals white supremacy or this, that. And the thing is
They subvert it. It's a reversal spell.
They subvert it. But when we do our own research and look into what is actually being accomplished, what are the policies being enacted? Like, for me, because I was the same.
Being taken?
What are the actions being taken? And so for me, I had in 2016, and I generally don't vote. And I felt like, oh, this is authentic change. So that's sort of where I was leaning. And the trafficking stuff did come onto my radar very early on, within the first couple months. And I saw, oh, this guy's taking action. Like just as far as being effective and doing, he made bold moves very quickly. But
second day in office, dude. Second day in office.
Exactly.
2
really
days. 2 days, dude.
Exactly.
2.
And then I started tracking China and what was going on with China. And that was started to soften any resistance that I had, start and educating myself as far as how dangerous that system, that situation has been, not only with, let's see, I mean, can I say Obama? That's not really a censorship issue.
Oh.
So like Obama
Mr.
Mr. O sold a lot of our most vulnerable ports to China. gave them
yeah.
free reign. Like, bring in whatever you want, you know, whatever. And that's why California is so messed up in the way it is, because you have Schiff and Pelosi are all in bed.
Oh yeah,
with the
Newsom,
CCP. So
all of them. Yeah.
right. So it was, for me, it was from tracking the China thing where I started to have respect for what he was doing, not his personality, not like none of that, just how he was handling shit and making our country safe, taking care of the people here. And, you know, I remember when he brought all of Apple manufacturing back to the States. And I thought at that, I was like, that's huge. I posted something about it on social media, and there was no love.
Wow, that's so interesting.
And that was a couple of years ago. And we've all heard about how horrible the conditions are for the Chinese in those factories and how high the suicide rate was.
Yes.
And that was a big part of what he was doing, which is also a big part of how everything's being conflated right now. How we need a global economy, and we need to do business, and people don't understand how we've been enslaved to China economically, and how our people have
and how China owns like so much real estate in America. Like, you guys, China owns a large portion of the United States. You guys need to understand that. Like, it is no joke.
No joke.
It's no joke. They were taking over our country.
Well, and they've taken over the Democratic Party. And I want to be clear, I'm not a Republican. I don't align with either party. And I don't
not either.
You know, there are scuzzy, traitorous people in the Republican Party as well. Absolutely. And at this point, from what I've seen, the Democratic Party CCP is fully infiltrated. 100%. And so anyway, that was by educating myself, again, just not taking the corporate media's propaganda and telling me what to think. By doing my own research, I started to see what moves were being made and what was really happening. And I don't get cult of personality. Of course, I would prefer a well-spoken, you know, unifying speaker who is presidential.
Here's the interesting thing is he is like that, but nobody sees that footage unless you go looking for it. Exactly. So here's what happened for me. This was huge. When I saw the State of the Union address for the lockdown on March 15th or March 13th, whatever day that was, I watched it. The moment it was happening, I was like, I'm going to watch this. I want to see this motherfucker. I want to know what he's up to. You know, I was like suspicious, right? So I watched it and it had the opposite effect on me. I saw his heart. Mm-hmm. At the very end, he softened and he said, everything's going to be okay. I just want you to hear that. He knew that he had to do that because of what they were doing in order to keep, you know, everything balanced. He had to do that.
He had to do it.
He had to do it to like manage the whole situation. And I don't think he would have ever done that had he had a choice in that. Like, I really don't think he would have done it.
Why do you think that?
I think he would have gone about it a different way, but that he was having to deal with all of these people and the situation, and like he was being told what to do, and like I feel like Sweden, like we would have easily been fine had, this is just my personal take, if our immune systems were strong enough to manage. Well, here's the other part of it. Some healing was done on the viral situation so that it wouldn't kill people. Like there was actually, you know, somebody handled that. Because in China, they did die. 21 million people died. Well, it was real. They covered it up.
Okay, hold up though. No, so I heard, and granted, I'm not in China, but that was those were two different things. So something that they were, so there was the CV thing, which, and now keep in mind, it's multidimensional. So people are having, there are a lot of different timelines converging.
Right.
So
Yes.
from my perspective, and having done a lot of research on Plandemic 2, you know, and the CDC came out and admitted that only 6% of the actual deaths reported were correct. So that's less than 10,000 Americans. It's not a pandemic. It's not an epic.
Period.
It's a flu. It's a flu. But I did hear that in China, so there was the CV thing, but then they had been playing with creating a bioweapon to deal with the Hong Kong. And they created something in a lab that was intended to create Parkinson's-like symptoms, but it ended up being too virulent. And even for the CCP, they were like, it was like melting people's organs. So I heard that that's what got out. And that's what was killing people, but they used it as the cover story for that oopsie. I don't know. This is what I heard.
That's fascinating. Well, yeah, but that wasn't in Wuhan, was it?
Yeah, because Wuhan is where they have that
Wuhan.
big. Yeah, because Wuhan is where they have the lab where they're making all their cruddy shit. But I want to be clear.
Check this out too. Wuhan is on the Silk Road. So here's an interesting point too that you guys need to understand about the Silk Road. The original Silk Road is being utilized this way, okay? That it went into Iran, and then it, you know, like the way that it spread was very much along the line of the Silk Road. Literally.
That's
and the
interesting.
Silk Road,
so what do you make of that?
It's also being used now in modern time for the adrenochrome manufacturing labs. So it's directly connected.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Destroying those labs was a crucial imperative for them. Beirut. Okay, so the bombing in 4 days, we had how many bombs? 7 bombs all over the world.
Right.
What were those bombs about?
And they
Think
were
about it. Underground. And then they exposed a whole underground networking tunnel system, a whole system, and they rescued 80,000 children from Beirut, from the underground system. You guys, like, so much has happened in this year. Like, it's mine. Like, there was a lot happening before this year, but now this is like 2020, clear vision, right? You know? So this all has to go back to the adrenochrome production and why they are trying to hide this from the population, because of the severity with which it is operating on the planet. It is no joke. They fast-tracked, they were already planning on doing the pandemic, but they fast-tracked it once the indictments were served. Once he put the executive order in place and was not kidding around, and he was in control, and he was connected to all the countries and had all the world leaders on his side, and he was already planning on doing the financial reset, right? But he was going to do it informing the population of this switch.
Right.
So as it stands right now, this is all very important too, because the financial reset is why they're fighting so hard. The adrenochrome is exposing them. And then, you know, all of that money was fueling this industry, this human trafficking, torture, murder industry, literally blood drinking industry. I mean, one listing, you guys, on Alibaba.com for powdered adrenochrome, one listing in the US gleaned $300,000 from January to July of 2020.
You know what's interesting about that? So did you say that was on Alibaba?
One listing, and there's hundreds of listings.
Okay, check this out.
Just think about what I'm saying, you guys.
Okay, so check this out, because I went really deep. I spent the spring getting a PhD in Bill Gates for
There you go.
pandemic. So first quarter of 2020, Bill Gates changed his personal investment portfolio, which has been relatively static for a few years. And he sold a bunch of things, and he bought a shit ton of Alibaba. He bought a shit ton of FedEx, UPS, Walmart, Apple, Google, every single thing that is profiting from the pandemic right now. It's like a checklist for that. But it's the Alibaba is interesting because that was the one, and I'm like, okay, I get it. It's online, you know, and he did buy a couple others. Yeah, but that's really interesting.
Boom.
Yeah.
It's the first thing I saw. One of the first things I noticed was that Alibaba was selling adrenochrome. And I was like, it's still happening. What? Like,
but this is the thing, is the way that the media,
it's still happening right now, dude.
Our world runs on it. That's what people don't understand, is the largesse of this, and how everyone, you know, all these glamorous movie stars and pop stars and whatever that they put on pedestals are running themselves on this stuff. And there's the story sounds crazy enough as it is, but the corporate media has taken it through the 17 situation and made it sound like just absurd and like a cartoon thing that's so crazy that no one will really and what's unfortunate, and I understand it's very hard for people to stomach, but where my frustration is, I get that it's hard for you to stomach, but people are getting hurt. Innocent children are getting hurt. So we adults need to suck it up.
Millions of human beings, millions and millions, maybe billions of human beings are being trafficked on this planet every day.
Well, 8 million children a year globally go missing, but that doesn't talk about the ones that are bred for this, right?
Underground.
Exactly.
Underground by other children through the torture and rape of them.
Right. And because we can't be bothered because it makes us uncomfortable.
It's like,
and we're
I can't look at that. I need to
I want to watch
my
Netflix.
safe little cozy house.
It's a problem. Because we're all, it's happening on our watch, so we're all responsible.
But energetically, let's just talk about it energetically for a moment. The frequency that is vibrating, the amount of consumption of that activity has been keeping this entire planet out of the light. And the false matrix overlay that's on top of that, that's distracting everybody, that's buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that. Ooh, glitter, glam. Ooh, worship, idol worship all these celebrities. Mm-hmm. All the celebrities are eating children.
Right. But wait, let's be clear. Hold up. Because when we say eating children, it goes to the crazy place where it's hard for people
I'm going to clarify.
Okay.
I'm going to clarify. So it starts with a little innocent question from Ellen DeGeneres to Sandra Bullock. So what's really in that stuff that, you know, they do microdermabrasion on your skin? Oh yeah, no, it's just, you know, so what is that? What's in that product that they're putting on your face that makes you look youthful and young? Oh, come on, Sandra, you can say it. She's like, well, you know, and she's like, okay, it's Korean foreskin. It's foreskin from a Korean baby, Sandra. And Sandra's like, really?
So why do you think Ellen would push that, given that you know she knows because she's in on it? So what is that about?
Because you have to inform the public of what you are doing by universal law. They have to tell you what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they've been telling us the whole time. We're just not listening.
Right.
It's
crazy.
glamorous. They make them look useful. Literally, you can look at a picture of like Winona Ryder, for example, of when she's like in her early 20s and her now, identical. Same with Angelina Jolie. Same with a lot of these people. They haven't aged one day and they're 50s and they're in their 50s. Like I'm in my 50s. I haven't aged, but I've aged, right? Like I have to do myself up. I don't inject or ingest anything to make myself look like this. I have to put on a hell of a lot of makeup to make myself actually look like, but I still look like I've aged. I still look like, hi. So the point is that, let me go back to the eating babies thing, because I know it sounds crazy, but I need people to understand, because I am actually a survivor. I'm going to get real here for a second. Should I do this? Should I do this, Dani?
Yeah, do it.
Should I do it? All right, I'm going to do it. Okay. I was strapped up to machines and electrocuted. And strapped to an IV, which then they were taking my blood from me. Of which they ingested, clearly. I'm a survivor of that. I didn't go about it the way that they're doing it now. I went about it where it was years of my life where I was subjected to this, like trauma-based mind control and torture. And my father was getting paid every single time I was electrocuted. Take that in for a second. It took me until I was 47 years old to heal my body from PTSD and from my central nervous system, 3 bouts of cancer, 2 broken backs, being directly targeted my entire life. It took me till I was 47 years old and left the country, barely got out with my skin, to be able to do the work to get rid of all the things that were going on with me that were keeping me from being safe and stabilized. Because their main goal is to destabilize people who are targeted. But now we're all targeted. Now you're seeing how we're all being targeted, and we're all being subjected to mind control through propaganda, through consumerism, through the mainstream media. It is real.
It's super real. And it seems, I know you and I have touched on this before, but those of us,
God, that was hard.
You did great,
Sorry.
babe. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys, I don't talk about that. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to publish this, but we'll see. Anyway, keep going.
I was just going to say, those of us who were targeted by MK Ultra as kids, as you and I have other friends who we're all the ones who are doing our best to stop this right now.
Right.
And we've talked about this, like, it's not an accident that they chose us, because time isn't linear and they know that. Right. And the 17 story embedded in the understanding of the non-linearity of time. And so it's interesting, what you went through and that torture and that pain. And I have my own version, and like, what we are able to withstand now, how much strength how much we understand what we're dealing with, so that we're not succumbing to it. Like, we get it, and we're waking other people up to it. I find that I mean, it's terrible what we went through, and it's terrible what children now continue to go through.
I mean, it's so far beyond now, like what the children are going through right now is so far beyond even, I mean, what I went through, I wouldn't wish upon any single human being on this planet. Like, that was one example. And that was just one thing that they did. Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't include everything else that happened. But just to say that I survived it, like, imagine all of these children right now that are dead because of these activities of this group of people. Yeah. And the level of consumption that this group of people was operating under. That's mind-blowing to think about. An example is 1 million children. 1 million children were just rescued from under Melbourne, Australia. One city in the world. Just one city. And guess who had places in Melbourne? Guess who had places there?
Who?
Tom Hanks, John Podesta.
Yeah. And how intense Melbourne's lockdown situation is.
That's the thing. And that's the other part, is while all of the rescuing was going on was when that big lockdown and big battle was going on in the lockdown situation in Melbourne.
And for your audience to start to understand the overlay, like, the fires that have been started every year in Southern California, Northern California, the direct energy weaponry.
Oh, so when Oregon, Washington, the entire West Coast.
Exactly. So when they targeted the Getty had their own underground tunnels, had a lot of evidence and photographic evidence underneath the Getty. So here in Mexico, where we're having, like, why is our lockdown so crazy? Well, Jeffrey Epstein has a ranch here. Exactly. And so then you have, the sickos who are doing what they're doing with adrenochrome and doing what they're doing with children. But then you have the governors who are letting it happen under their watch. Because how Jeffrey Epstein paying our governor for the access that he had.
Oh, yeah.
And, so just so people start to understand the web that this whole thing is, and how many people are involved, and how many people are compromised, how many people are being blackmailed. And so there's
a story, ankle bracelets, and you can't see them.
Exactly. And so there's the story that the corporate media is presenting really has very little to do with what's actually happening. And then you look at the guy who's leading us now, and all the things he's playing defense to that are taking a lot of false accusations, and the impeachment and the Russiagate and the this and the that, and then what's actually being done that the mainstream media isn't talking about. I find it like, I'm just impressed at the degree of competence and multitasking.
Right? Dude, seriously, that man blows my mind. He blows my mind.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Like, if you guys actually look at what he's actually doing, him and the whole crew, what they're doing, it is so far beyond any president in the last 25, 30, 40 years even.
It's very hard to compare.
You can't compare. I've never seen a president do what he's doing, ever. I've never seen any one human being do what he's doing.
I don't think anyone has. And I think there's, he's dismantled a lot of the which people don't know about and they don't talk about. A lot of pieces of the Patriot Act, he's let expire or undone to allow him. And then, and a lot, like, I know he passed some bill that now Sidney Powell is using to help bring justice to this election.
Did you, by the way, did you know that he had, this is great, dude. He's so smart. Oh my God. So he has an executive order in place that he's had in place for over 2 years, I think, pretty sure, that has us in a state of emergency. And so the election itself cannot actually exist within the state of emergency because of the situation. It's some kind of a thing. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And also, I think given that
Time
the
to celebrate.
well, given that the United States is a corporation, right? And we're
that's all defunct now, though, too.
Well, and that's why I think, and again, I want to be clear, I haven't taken the 17 Kool-Aid, you know, like I have my suspicions.
There is a restored republic. We do know that. That's legally in place.
And so from my perspective, that this is a businessman and not a politician making these deals to get us back our sovereignty. I don't know that anyone else would be able to would have been able to pull it off.
Right. And the financial wizardry that's involved in what he's doing is mind-blowing. It's like he knows all the trends of the world. He knows how the numbers work. He knows how the stock market works. He knows how all of those things work, and he's watching them all, and he's figuring it all out, and then being like, doom, 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 doom. 3 peace deals in the Middle East in less than a month.
Oh, it's huge. It's so huge.
There has not been a peace deal in the Middle East for over 20 years.
Right.
At least. All the wars that you guys have seen, all the wars, all that shit has been all part of this group of people stealing the financials and the tax dollars of the American public to finance these wars. You guys, they've been stealing us and making us debt slaves. I haven't paid my taxes since 2003, and we're not lawfully required to pay taxes. Who knows that?
I know, From Freedom to Fascism is a must-watch documentary for everyone, so they can get up to speed on.
Right. So the fact that anybody thinks, are you coming back? Let's see if you come back. The fact that anybody thinks that he's a fascist dictator is laughable to me. Like, well, I lived through the Cold War with my father and the whole situation. I lived through the Communist Party situation with my father. Like, I know this stuff. You guys have already been through this once before.
But here's the key. You just said if anyone thinks he's a fascist dictator, they're not thinking. Because if anyone if they were thinking, they would know that that's absurd. First of all, we've already been a fascist country, given that we're under the control of corporate oligarchs, which is the definition of fascism, and that predated the guy who's in there now. And as far as a dictatorship, like, this is the only guy I've seen who actually respects the democratic process, loves our country, and acts in its best interest. And I find it, you know, my friends who have lived under fascist regimes, they're very offended by it. Like, it's so crazy. If this is what they think fascism is, it's so indicative of our ignorance, and people who haven't traveled, you know. Then there's the whole SJW thing about this is the worst country ever, and the most racist.
Oh my God.
I'm just
these people have never suffered. They've never suffered. They've never had, they're so spoiled. They have no idea.
So spoiled.
They've never, ever had a problem. Like, they've never had problems. Maybe they've had sexual trauma and whatever. Like, that's probably a big part of their PTSD. But this is not. We are the most free country in the world. Like, and
we have to protect that.
Do not understand that. We need to protect that. I've traveled the world. I've seen it. It's fucking scary.
Exactly.
It's scary.
the fact that we can criticize freely here, although if JB takes the spot, he wants to change the First Amendment and get rid of that. But
And
yeah,
the second.
so
let's talk about the
in
fact
what
that Stalin. So like, if anybody wants to know what a fascist dictator looks like, go look up Stalin and study Stalin, and then also look up the phrases that Hillary Clinton has used that are almost identical to Stalin. Like, no joke.
like
Stalin. Oh my God, there's like a whole list of like
I mean,
all the things that she has said that are almost identical to what Stalin has said.
Okay.
Like verbatim.
Well, I know the "we're in it together" is very much like old school communist propaganda.
The new normal, alone together.
Yep.
And then the virtue signaling and the guilt of like, you're hurting other people if you don't do this, and like,
right.
But your health is better if you take care of you. If you sacrifice yourself for someone else, then you are actually being virtuous.
It is so alarming to me to hear intelligent in our community say we need to stop whining about freedom. I can't believe it when I hear it, and that safety is more important, and we need to stop being selfish and keep whining about freedom. And I just feel like this is such a bizarre time.
Yeah, like who would ever say that freedom is not something that we need to complain? We need to complain about it. We need to have our freedom, period.
Of course, but I've heard so many people in our community, like so many spiritual teachers who are towing this weird virtue signaling communist propaganda line. And my thing is, okay, well, this is a democratic republic. So if you're lobbying for communism, respect, move to Russia, move to China. Like those countries
move somewhere else.
That's not this. That's not this. This is a democratic republic. This is the land of the free. Exactly.
Dude, go look at Cuba. Okay, they make Cuba look like it's all beautiful and amazing, but actually Benny Johnson, Benny on the Block or whatever, he took a group of guys and they went down to Cuba to check it out themselves. And within one generation, within 20 years, they completely destroyed that fucking country. And they talked to all these people there, and they showed the devastation of that country and what had happened to them. And like, they literally showed this grocery store where everybody was waiting in line to go into this grocery store when it opened, right? And everybody's rushing each other to get in there to get the one grocery store and the supplies that they need for the next month. Like, are you fucking kidding me right now? We are spoiled rotten. We are spoiled rotten.
1,000%.
There are people living in ruins in Cuba with no air conditioning, nothing. And Egypt. So many other places are like that I've been to.
Do you remember the movie Benjamin?
Say it again.
Do you remember the movie Private Benjamin with Goldie Hawn?
Of course.
Okay, so remember
everybody should watch that.
Totally. So when her husband died and no one knew what to do with her, and she goes to see Harry Dean Stanton, who's the army recruiter, so jappy, and she's like, I'm not really the army type. And he's like, no, it's a different army. It's an army with condos and spa services, and you can wear whatever you want. It's not the same army that you think of. And when I hear people talking about socialism and what AOC is talking about and living into, I just keep thinking of Private Benjamin, and that he shows up and it's the regular old army, and they're like, no, idiot, there is no second princess army. There's no second princess socialism. That doesn't exist.
He fooled you. He fooled you.
Right.
Dude, it's insane what people are believing right now and how upset they're getting about this situation and how they're blaming and projecting onto us or onto the people that are actually trying to wake people up to the truth.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, my whole friend base has avoided me like the plague. They're just like, I can't talk to you because they want to be nice. They don't want to they know how I feel about the situation. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to talk to her now because, so I have literally this past year, I've barely talked to any of my friends that was my community here.
Oh, same. I mean, I've been like violently ostracized from my dance community in LA. And then there are the friends who we just don't talk. And I've been attacked pretty viciously by some close friends. And whenever it happens, I pick up the phone and I'm like, do I need to remind you that you love me and that we go to Sweat Lodge together and that we're friends and we don't have a problem? So like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
Get over yourself.
But that's the mind control. And it's, it's very dangerous because it's really hijacking people's humanity.
Yes. And their humor and their sense of reason and.
Right. And so it's like when I have people who are telling me that I'm an alt-right, racist, phobic, misogynistic Nazi, not based on their lived experience of me,
right,
but based on what their media is telling them to interpret my actions or inactions to mean, and then I see them believing it, I get really worried for the rest of humanity who doesn't know me, who doesn't have a lived experience of me as a kind, loving,
exactly.
It's sketchy.
It's super sketchy.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to end with this and say, because I think we've been on for quite a while now.
Yeah.
I want to end with saying that if there's a moment in your reality where you find yourself getting angry with someone that you love, take a step back. Take a step back and remind yourself of why you love this person. And remember that this is just an election. This is not life. It is affecting our lives, but where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself going in the future? And if, for example, take a moment and look into 2 timelines and then look further, right? Look at the reality of JB and look at the reality of DJT, okay? You're going to see tension in both places. But go a step further through the timeline of the eventuality of JB and the eventuality of DJT and see what happens and where you are in that reality. Where you are placed in that reality. Where do you see yourself in that reality? And really check in with your higher guidance and yourself, not all the voices in your head that are telling you that Orange Man is bad. That's just mind control, period. It really is.
Yeah.
So take a moment and get back to your center, get back to your truth. It doesn't matter whose personality is whatever. Step out of the personality and look at the timeline. Look at the timeline, you guys. Look at where we're going and look at the future. You can do it. We can all do it. We all have capacity and availability for that in this reality. There's enough light on the planet now that we can see what's coming. So feel into the future and see where you want to be, what you want to intend for your life and what you see coming and how you are going to navigate that, right?
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a great place to end. And one other piece that I feel inspired to add to that is just feeling enjoying your present moment right now. And are you vibing hate? And are you
right?
Like, are you raging against the machine? And is that healthy? Does that feel
for
good?
You? Yeah.
Do you like hating your friends? Is that good for your telomeres? Is that good for your own cortisol levels? Being angry all the time. And if you are, respect. But I would just, and I say this to myself, you know, when
Right.
I'm letting myself be controlled and I'm angry and I'm like, wait a minute, this is my life. I'm not going to give my joy to this theater and to this sham.
Exactly.
I want to enjoy my reality. And so just inviting people to use that as a litmus as well as like, are you vibing hate? Are you vibing separation? And does that feel good?
But a lot of these people who are on the left or whatever, I don't think of it as left or right because it's way past that, you guys. But it's mind control or not mind control.
I think exactly. It's just hijacked.
Yeah, hijacked. So those people that are hijacked are actually kind of relieved, maybe a little stressed out because they don't know what's going to happen with the election, but they were relieved and celebrating the supposed election of this person, JB, like, oh, now we can relax because Orange Man Bad is going to be out of no.
But that's really the key. But that's really the key is that the celebration, and notice this, really, it's very important that the celebration wasn't excitement about JB and JB's vision. It was
about
defeating Orange Man. So it's very important to look at that and the negativity and the hatred that was informing the celebration. You know, really pay attention to that.
Not only that, but the immediate announcement of their plans and what they were going to do. The immediate plans and their announcements of what they were planning to do. If you were paying attention, it would have horrified you. It would have terrified you to your core to hear what came out of his mouth and what their plans are for you immediately. The transition team and what they're planning to do and how they're going to lock down the entire nation and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. Pay attention.
Also,
how does that feel in your body? Like for real.
And also at the same time, pay attention to the that are we taking lists?
What? Say again.
AOC had and they've set up this department for the retribution for those who had supported Orange Man Bad, and how can we destroy their lives and make sure they never
entrainment camps,
but not just re-education camps. Let's make sure these people can never get a job again. Like taking away sides and who we support. Like I think anyone with a working brain should be terrified that would be the, you know, that like that is in the works in our established government. That's crazy.
Not only that, but the other announcement from Mr. O about using the social media and the mainstream media and the big tech companies to get their message out, to make sure that people understand, to like, you know, giving all the power to the social media.
And again,
did you hear him talk about that? He just came out with that. All of a sudden he broke his silence and he's like, yeah, we need to make sure that the news and the social media and everybody is on the same page and that we're using that to influence, to help people understand what's coming, what's happening. Dude.
It's terrifying. And it's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
People still elevate him, you know, because he's like this figure. And I've had people completely lose it when I've suggested that perhaps he's not as benign as he seems. People will literally flip out on that one.
It's because he has a soft, soothing voice and everybody wants to go to sleep.
Because he's an actor. Because he's
an actor.
It's all
acting. He came out of nowhere, charmed the pants off of everybody. I got sick to my stomach. Like, who the fuck is this guy? I was like, what the fuck? Who's this?
Yeah.
Nauseating.
Same. Yeah. And also inviting us
he's a cokehead and all these other things. And he's been raping children for years. And, you know, like he's gay and he has a transsexual partner, which is fine, but whatever. Like, if you're going to be honest about it, like.
Also the actual presidency, you know, like dropping the ball on the economic crisis, bailing out the bankers, sending $1 million
Dude, the
to
swine
Iran,
flu, Ebola, like all the things that got
Dakota
swept
Access
under the rug.
Pipeline. I mean, the slave
Yeah,
trade
that
in Libya
started
started
under
up again.
Mr. O. And not only that, but the same-sex marriage, that same-sex marriage thing, they took credit for that, and it wasn't actually theirs to take credit for, but they took credit for it, and it actually wasn't theirs. Just hear that.
Yeah, real slimy stuff when we look at what actually
Slime
went down.
balls.
Also, that the crime bill was never reversed. JB bill, which is the most racist bill that we've had.
1994.
Right. And Mr. O promised, he ran on the fact that he was going to undo that. 8 years, didn't undo
Nope.
it.
Didn't do shit.
Didn't do
He just
shit.
partied the
Except
whole
sell us
time he
out.
was in the office. He just partied. Him and that's all they did is party with celebrities. Like literally, there are pictures of them partying with celebrities. All the celebrities in the office. What did they do? They just caused more
Well, they
wars
sold
in
us
other
out to
countries.
CCP.
Well, yeah, not only that, but they were human trafficking all over the world. And then they were like putting us into like soldiers into war everywhere and like causing all these wars in other countries away from the eyes of the public of the US.
Well, and profiting, you know, it's all for
And profiting
profit.
millions and billions of dollars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me how it is that someone can own a mansion after their presidency, okay, worth $2.7 billion or $1 million, sorry, $2.7 million mansion, okay? One of their houses. The other house is another house that they have in another place, okay? Another mansion on a salary that doesn't even equal $1 million, number one. And number two, can we just talk about the fact that there has not been one penny taken by the president that is in office right now? He has donated his salary every single quarter for 4 years. He's literally lost $8 billion of his own money to be in that position.
Penny.
He hasn't taken one fucking penny for that job.
Nope, not one.
And that's true, you guys. You can look it up. It's all documented. It's there. It shows his donations to underprivileged communities. Like, it is no joke.
Yeah.
So I don't care what you say about Orange Man bad. That's what I say to that. Because he has literally not taken a penny.
No, and also, I mean, and again, I remain neutral on this. And that being said, when he speaks, I hear a love for the country and a love for the people and a positivity that I don't hear coming from other players. So I don't hear the love.
That actually brings back another point, that when he's not under attack, this is an interesting point. When he's not defending himself, he's completely different. He's an adult. He's a grandfather. He's a mature man. There's like so many levels to him that you never see, because all the mainstream media will reflect back to anyone is this, oh, he said this about, it's all twisted. And when you actually watch him, when he's not under attack, when people are being respectful to him, and he's in a group of people, he's very accommodating of everyone around him. He's very respectful, and he's very clear and succinct with his communication. And it's all very much a mature, well-educated statement that's being made. It's not like, those guys are losers. You know, it's not that.
No, it's not that at all. It's not that at all.
No, it's not that at all.
There have been plenty of exposés of, you know, I think it was an ABC news producer said, no, we have a hard and fast rule that we won't air anything positive about him.
Yeah,
which is
right?
very clear, you know, like super clear. So, I mean,
It's
basically
incredible.
I think it's wise for people to know that it's all inverted and nothing
Yes.
is what it seems. And to just sort of anchor ourselves in emotional maturity to be able to handle what will continue to be revealed, and to stay open and not attached to this illusion reality that has nothing to do with what we're actually living in.
I mean, their asses have been handed to them, you guys. You have to understand that Gitmo was rebuilt to house
For
these people.
Yeah.
It was rebuilt. It was in ruins. And they rebuilt the entire prison and added a few buildings to accommodate those that are going to be housed there. And there's military tribunals recorded confessions from all of these people. The real people, not
Right.
the ones you're seeing in the media right now.
Right. Not the holograms.
Not the hologramic freaking clones, whatever. Yeah. Incredible. So use your discernment. Even with this conversation, I mean, you're a sovereign being. You can make your own choices, right?
Yeah.
But we're here to just give our opinions, really, and take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Do not kill the messengers.
No.
We love you. We absolutely love you. And we are here to wake you the fuck up if you choose to wake up, and that's your choice. You can do whatever you want. But my intention with this is to like help people see just what's really going on. Like, you may think you know what's going on, and then you hear this conversation, you're like, holy shit, I didn't know about that, and that. You're like, yeah, actually there's all this too, you know? So it's just, we're trying to give information that will be helpful in terms of your own assessment of the situation and what you are choosing to observe and pay attention to. And what I have found pretty much is that people are not willing to do the research, that it takes a lot of time and energy and effort to really find the information. So if you feel like you want one thing that you can watch that will be, kind of give you an overall general sense, and it's not pretty and it's not easy to watch, but it's important, is Fall Cabal. And that parts 1 through 10, if you watch that by Janet Ozenblard or whatever her name is. Anyway, she's up on BitChute now because she had to upload everything onto BitChute because everything got taken down off YouTube. So I'm pretty sure.
Also,
so she's up on BitChute now, and she's making a sequel.
The sequel's out. She's released the first 4 episodes.
Oh, that's the sequel she's uploading. Maybe that's what I saw.
Yeah. So the first 10 of Fall of the Cabal, I agree. And it's so important, and it's very well researched. She did
very well researched.
Cannibal Restaurant. She did get that wrong, and that's okay. We all make mistakes.
What did she say about the Cannibal Restaurant?
She said there was a cannibal restaurant in Los Angeles that was serving human flesh, that was a joke. Oh, I heard.
Honey, that's not a joke. That's real. I've driven by that place. I've seen the sign. Oh, it's real.
Okay. I will look into it more because we all need to do our own research, and definitely watch Fall of the Cabal to get a overview of the largesse of this deception and what is really going on. And then start watching the sequel because it's so good.
Cool. Yeah, I've got to get on top of those sequels. I got to watch those.
They're awesome.
Awesome. Well, she just uploaded them today, or yesterday. So it's going to be exciting to watch those.
She's doing one a week. Yeah, she's doing one a week. So only 4 are out, and I think it's long. It's like at least 15 parts. So plenty of time to catch up.
Okay, cool.
And they're short.
Nice.
They're like 20-minute segments.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Well, thank you, Dani, so much for being here and being a part of this conversation with me. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Saralise.
I love you. I love you so much. My heart is going out to you. And I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for listening to our conversation, our consensual conversation that we're having. And yeah, that's it. Until the next time.